Hello everyone and welcome to the BoldChess show. I'm your host Roland, and in this video I'll be taking on the Stockfish chess engine at level 6 on leadchess.org, playing with the black pieces and using the Caro-Kann Defense opening. This is the last installment in our series on how to defeat Stockfish levels 1 to 6 as black. To ensure a consistent and educational experience, I'll be using the Caro-Kann Defense in this video like the previous ones. If you haven't watched the previous videos, please be sure to watch the entire playlist and visit our website at boldchess.com, where you'll find a step-by-step proven academy for chess improvement. Our program covers everything you need to excel in chess, including openings, endgames, tactics, puzzles, study plans, and much more. Now, let's dive into the challenge. Here we are at the chessboard against Stockfish level 6. Like the previous matches in this series, we're going to play the Caro-Kann Defense. So we'll start with the c6 followed by d5. We will stay consistent with this. Although in this specific situation, when we do that, it will be called queen pawn opening rather than Caro-Kann, because the white decided to open with the queen. But the sequence of moves and the logic is pretty much the same, and throughout the game we may transpose into the Caro-Kann depending on how white responds. So I'll start the match with the c6. White replied by pushing his second pawn to e4. I'm going again to continue with the same development like the previous matches. I will move to d5. He developed his knight. Those are all theory movement, and in this case we do need to take a decision in this case. Ideally in the Caro-Kann defense, or in this case in the queen pawn opening, we would like to develop our bishop, but in this case our bishop cannot be developed. We can't place it on e6. We can't place it on f5 because it's under attack, and g4 is also under attack by the queen. So we cannot develop the bishop, and at the same time we cannot lock the bishop in by pushing our pawn to e6. So in this case, in the theory books of chess, it's well known for black in this position just to capture. We capture the pawn at e4, and that will allow us to develop our bishop later on. Not necessary in this move, but later on this will become an option. Of course, white will capture back, and these are all still in the theory book. We didn't really start any thinking. Now, in this case, several moves are acceptable. We can develop the bishop, we can develop the knight, we can develop the other knight. So as with all openings, we need to activate our pieces. So lots of options are available here for us, and I will go with the simplest option, the one that we have explained. The reason why we captured is to activate our bishop. So we'll start with the bishop. And then the knight will move to g3, attacking our bishop. Now our bishop can easily slide backwards. And this would allow us to achieve our objective, which is basically when we are moving the pawn to e6, we are not locking the bishop on c8. So I'm going to move my pawn to e6. And this is all still theory, more or less, developing the pieces in a very natural way. This is what makes the Caro-Kann defense very attractive, is because it allows you to develop your pieces in a natural way without memorizing any lines. Just very easily you respond to white's movement and you try to make the most accurate play. So white here moved his knight to e2, and here we need to start thinking for a bit to see what to do here. The logical lines here is to develop the knight, develop the bishop, develop the other knight, and potentially we need to castle kingside as well as soon as possible. So I will start with developing the pieces. I will develop this knight. to d7. And then the next move, we might look into developing the other knight, depending on how white responds. Very well, I'll develop the other knight since there are no immediate threats. White here decided to attack our bishop. We need to evaluate here whether exchanging the bishop is a good idea, or should we just continue with our development. If we did not capture the bishop, there might be a possibility of him capturing back, and then we will need to capture with one of these two pawns, potentially with the h6 pawn. So capturing his bishop, I don't think it will pose any problems for us. I will go with this line. I will just capture the bishop. And then after he captures back, he has to capture back either with the queen or with the pawn. In this case, he did it with the queen, which is the correct move in my opinion. So in this case, we still need to, as we have mentioned, we have to castle kingside. That is the objective of developing our knights. So we have several movements. Moving our bishop to b4 is not going to give us anything. There are no pieces here for us to attack, and we might be getting pushed out by if white played later on c3 or a3 throughout the game. So it might be a good idea for us we have two potential squares for it. e7 is usually a popular option, since we are not also blocking the path of our queen. And later on, if this pawn decided to jump to c5, which he just moved it, our bishop won't be under attack. So he did push the pawn, and now, as we have mentioned, our objective was to castle the king. So now our king is safe. We can just play normal chess and see what we can do. Get some kind of activity on our pieces. I will start by moving my queen to c7. I'll connect the rocks and see what would be white's response. White is also developing his pieces. In this case, he is eyeing on this diagonal, adding more pressure on my knight. When this pawn moves on, if it ever moves throughout the game, the bishop will be eyeing on the knight. We have to keep that in mind, have a complete board awareness. I would like to centralize the rocks. It's a very common theme in so many openings. I'm just thinking of the order of the movements. I'll start with rook to e8. And then I will move the other rook to d8. So now our rocks are centralized, are connected, our king is safe. We need to play very safely in this match, since we're playing against level 6. Level 6 is potentially rated around 1900, between 18 to 1900. So he doesn't blunder that much. He's very good at spotting tactics. We will need to be careful and play in a very solid way without taking any risks, and see what we can do with every movement. Very well. Here's what is the objective of white. When we are stuck in a position, it's good to evaluate it and see what is white's intentions in every single move. Like in this case, he's having common ideas like our ideas, how we are connecting the rocks and centralizing them. It's a very common opening principle, and he's following the same principles as we are. Very well, let's calculate some lines, see what we can do. What could be a good potential option? I will start with a6 here. Potentially throughout the game, I might be able to play b5, depending on white's reply. I think I can play b5 right away since I did not get any pressure, any additional pressure from white at the moment. I'll just proceed with the plan. So we need to calculate this series of exchanges here. He's attacking our pawn at b5 with 2 pawns. And leaving this situation as it is would result in several exchanges. But at the end of these exchanges, his queen will be open and will be more active. And since his rocks are connected, this might not be a good idea just to leave them. We need to take action. We will need to capture one of these 2 pawns. Usually capturing to the inside, to the center, might be a better idea than capturing to the outside. And but maybe in this position it won't matter that much. I'm going to capture to the inside. Capture the pawn at c4. He should capture back with the pawn. And in this position, we will need to see what to do. One potential move is pawn to c5, attacking his pawn. This is an option. We can slide the rook to this open file. Although it's nice for the rook to take the open file, I'm just not seeing any threats. This bishop is protected, so we're not getting any tempo, but it is a very good idea to take the open file. I'm also thinking about the pawn to c5. Maybe I'll start with the pawn and see how that goes. Is he going to push the pawn? He didn't push the pawn forward. I was expecting him to push it to d5. He did not. Instead, he moved his bishop to add more pressure on c5. Very well. Trying to calculate some lines here. See would capturing is a good idea, or should we take control over this file? I'm going simply to capture this pawn. And see how it goes. Let's see. What would be white's best movement here? Exchanging the bishop will not result in anything. His knight will be positioned on d4. I think it should be okay. It should be fine for the most part. It might not be the most accurate move, but it should be passable. So he did capture our bishop. We have to capture back with the rook. That's the only move. The position is very balanced up to this point. We are not able to push forward yet. Let's see here. Should we... Moving the knight here is not a good idea. That will give him lots of momentum. If we move the knight, his knight might uh, jump to b3 or even c6. We will need to think carefully here of what to do. Maybe we can take control of this file now. This can be a passable move. Let's take control of this file. The knight retreats. I will connect the rocks again. My rock here is not doing much. My knight is already protected by the queen. So I move this rock to challenge our rock. Should we exchange rocks in this position or not? I believe exchanging should be fine. He has to capture back with his rook or with the queen. I think though the rook might have been better, since now I can gain a tempo by taking control over the file again by moving my rook. And since now we don't have two rocks at the back rank anymore, it would be nice to get some square for our king just in case. And at the same time, it would be good to control the square at g5. Just going to play h6 here. This will give my king a breathing room. It's like we're opening the window for him. And we will control the g5 square. He still has two knights. The position is almost equal, even in terms of material. Let's see what to do here. Start with the queen, improve its position maybe a bit. Then we need to develop the knights, find better squares for the knights. One way to go about it is this is a potential square for the knight. This is a potential square for our second knight. We can also move the queen to, might be an idea to add the pressure, or the rook even can also be a good idea here. Add more pressure on the c4 square. Let's try with the rook and see if that would give us any momentum. Very well, he is attacking our queen. Probably here we can just take his knight. He took our knight. He has to take back. And now I believe we can capture this pawn, which might be a good idea. Let's do that. And now, what can we do? I believe we can, maybe we can offer a queen exchange here. And that will also attack the knight if the queen moved away too far. This might be a passable move. He might check us, but we have here a breathing window, which is totally fine. So he protected the knight, of course, he has to. or he has to move it. But in this case, protecting it is, I believe it might be better since his knight is centralized and he's eyeing on my king side. Now we need to find more good movements. Let's add more pressure on this pawn by moving our queen. This will add more pressure on the pawn from two attackers. He's telling us that if you capture my pawn with your rook, I'm going to capture your pawn. And on top of that, our knight here is under pressure. If we move our queen too far away, he will capture. If we move our queen away from this file, he will capture our knight. And of course, we cannot capture with the queen because the rook is guarding it. So we need to remove this indirect pin by moving our knight. Let's move our knight to e5. He's pushing his pawn forward. We do need to address this threat here. We do need to address it. Let's put the rook behind it. And he moved his queen back. I did not see that. He is checking our king. Should we move our king or not? If we moved our king, he might repeat movements. So we can maybe block. We can block the check with our pawn instead of moving the king. He did capture our rook. Now we will capture back. We have two possibilities. I think capturing with the queen should be fine. Let's keep the queen next to the pawn. And now I'll just capture the pawn since he didn't, he can't do anything to defend it, I think. Or maybe there was movements, but yeah, I mean, we lost our pawn here, but this pawn was very dangerous because it was queening. It was on the path towards promotion. So it's very important to capture it. Let's give him a check here and try to add more pressure on the king side. Maybe a more accurate move would have been queen to c2, but that's okay. Let's just let's move the knight to d4. What can we do here? How we queen to c3 might be an option. Let's try to attack the knight. Push our pawn forward. See how we can continue this. I'm not able to find any tactics here. I'm going to offer him a queen exchange. See if that would work out. Would he exchange queens? He did not exchange queens, so we will take his queen anyway, and that will be the conclusion of the middle game. Now we are entering the end game. Let's start pushing the pawns. I believe we do have a 1-pawn advantage here. We just need to play in a very accurate fashion, and maybe we can convert this position. Let's get our king inside the game. Very well. Should we capture or move forward or ignore? We cannot ignore. I do need to either capture or move forward. I'm going to favor moving forward. That will give me a passed pawn, but there's still lots of work is required. This is a knight endgame. It's very drawish. It can be a drawish position depending if we can play accurately here or not. I need to get my king to a good square as soon as possible. Let's move it now to e6 and try to get it in front of our pawns and see if we can add pressure somehow. What could be a good square here if we move the king to f6 and g5? That can also work. The knight can also jump here, and we also have there are lots of options here. I'm not entirely sure which one is the best move, but I will keep going with my king. And I need to reallocate my knight here because it's not doing anything. Let's reallocate it. I'm not able to, I need to find a better square for it. So now he is attacking our pawn. We need to be careful here. We should not blunder this position. What can we do? We need to either push our king towards the pawn, or we need to pull back our knight. I will go with the king. Very well, and now capturing might not be optimal. Let's move the knight as well and see if we can improve the situation here. Should we push the knight in front of our pawns or challenge his pawn again? Let's challenge his pawn. He captures, we have to capture back. He captured our pawn. We need to capture his pawn, of course. We have to, and now this will, he did not take our knight. That was unexpected. Okay. Let's push our king forward then. And now can I just continue pushing my king forward? Let's go to f4. And what can we do here? Let's keep pushing the pawn. Think it should be safe. I saw this check, but then I can just slide the king. So is it checking me again? Let's move this way. King to d3. Okay, let's keep going forward. And we need to play a bit carefully here, despite that we might be winning in this position since our pawn is close, but we still need lots of accurate moves. Let's see, let's reposition our knight. Okay, this is good. This is good. It's good to see his knight getting away from the action. I will push it forward. And we should be able to do well in this position. Let's see. Pushing our king forward might not be the best move here. What can we do? What is the most accurate movement here? Let's check his king first. All right, now that will allow us to queen, and now we just need to convert the advantage. Let's just give him a check this way. Very well. Let's challenge his knight, or let's just put our king on g3. Okay, we can now, what would be the fastest way to checkmate the king? Let's reposition our knight. Maybe he will exchange the knights. He did not exchange. I will exchange. This would be the fastest. I will take his pawn. And now I will just deliver a checkmate here very soon. Just need to reposition my queen. Now he cannot, he needs to shuffle his king between two squares. That will just allow me to bring the king and deliver the checkmate. Maybe getting a second queen would have been faster, but it's okay. Very well. So this was a very interesting match. Let's see how we did in this match. So we played the Caro-Kann defense, and here Stockfish was recommending the knight first. We went with the bishop, but it should be passable from the theory books. Here again, Stockfish is recommending the knight. The idea here is to prepare for castle king side as soon as possible. That's why developing the pieces on the king side before the queen side might be a valid idea. I've just decided to block the path of this bishop and activate my other bishop before I develop the knight, but overall it's all like valid movements. Here the best move turns out to be the bishop to d6, and that will accelerate the castle king side. It will activate our bishop instantly without having to worry about this bishop exchange. So anyway, we took his bishop. We developed our bishop to e7. It seems d6 was a better movement, but it's still passable. Here the best move was knight to e5. I didn't see that. because he cannot capture our knight due to this pin, this discovered attack. So, and that will allow us also to position our knight in a better square attacking his queen. I did not see this little movement. It's a strong one. So we centralize the rocks, and it seems the best moves here was to move the pawn to h5. But we played a6 instead, followed by b5, which should be passable. We captured the pawn, he captured back, we moved our pawn. Still, the best move was h5, which would lead to the following line. So still almost equal, but I think the point here is that we are aiming to open this file in front of his king to decrease the king's safety. And then later on throughout the endgame, when we activate our bishop, we can add more pressure on the king side. It's an advanced plan that chess engines can see. From a playable perspective, at my level, I can't see these lines. So all of these are okay movements. Here, it seems the best move was h6. We connected the rocks, and we should have doubled the rock and the queen on this file instead. We exchanged the rocks instead of doing that. We attacked the queen, and then the best movement was, one of the movement was to move the rock. h6 is okay according to the engine. Here the knight is more accurate to c5. Repositioning our knight would improve the pressure overall on the white pieces. This move made us lose almost a complete point, but we're still having a playable position, which is very passable. We took with the pawn. We moved the queen. The best move was the knight to add more pressure. Oh, the queen is also can be a candidate movement, but the knight is better. He checked us. We moved our king, and then here still the knight is still the best movement here. So we moved our queen. He attacked us, and here we should have repositioned our rook at b4. Then we exchanged rocks. We took the pawn, he took our pawn. Here we had a -4 points advantage, and we just needed to kick the knight off. Let's see this line. Then we check his king. We slide the queen. And then we, in this case, we are adding great pressure on the king side, and we managed even to get a pawn. And if he doesn't play in the way that the engine is showing here, he will lose the entire game. So these were the optimal lines for both sides. In the game, we moved the knight first and then back. So it was not so optimal. We're still almost equal here with only 1 point of difference because we have one extra passed pawn. Here the correct move was queen to c6. Our queen is protected by the knight, and while challenging the queen, we are pinning the queen to the king. So he has to exchange, and with a passed pawn, we should be doing well overall. We can check this line. If he took back, we can take back, and our pawn is protected, and we have a passed pawn. So ultimately, we will be able to add more pressure on the white pieces. We ended up exchanging queens anyway in a different fashion. And now here we are moving to the end game. We are bringing the king around. And let's see here what would be the best movement. The best movement here was knight to e7. We checked the king, we pushed forward, we had to exchange these pieces. And then we moved our king. Oh, this was a big mistake, a big blunder on our side. The best movement was king to g3, and the idea is that he cannot capture back here, because if we captured and he captured back, we can simply capture this pawn, and this is this pawn cannot be prevented from promotion. So because of that, this was the best movement. I did not see that in the game. Instead, I moved my king back and forth. But he did not play the most accurate movement either, so it was perfectly fine. Here in this position, when we checked the king, the best movement was to block it, to move the king in front of the pawn. And then he will need to, there's lots of movements here that are required for us to promote the pawn. But ultimately, he decided to go with the other line. And now he is just about converting our advantage and checkmating the king. Very well, we hope you enjoyed this video. Level 6 generally is more challenging than the other levels. Level 7 and 8 requires pretty much a titled chess player, a master, international master, or a grandmaster to defeat them. At a club level, which are the majority of the audience of our channel, usually level 6 should be your final target. Anything above level 6, then you are already a titled player with a very high rating above 2000s. We hope you enjoyed this series. Thank you very much for watching.